Welcome to episode 10 of the WINS live interview series. I'm Amie Sheridan, host and founder of WINS Media. The mission of this series is to elevate the visibility of women in sports and entertainment by creating a connected environment for authentic storytelling. Thank you for joining us as we interview influential leaders across sports, entertainment, and beyond. Today, I have Alicia Marinelli with me, President and CEO of Livingsport. Welcome, Alicia.
Thanks so much for having me, Amie. Really excited to get started and talk to you.
Awesome. Alicia is reimagining the study abroad experience for students and recent graduates interested in establishing a career in sports. She offers short-term domestic and international trips, which we'll get into today. We'll talk about that a lot. Her program combines educational travel with hands-on work experience at some of the most iconic sporting events in the world. Including this year, she brought a group to the Super Bowl. Big win.
Big win right there.
She has been all around the world at events like the Royal Windsor Triathlon, Ocean Man, and this year, after the past 12 months, I know that you're super excited to announce that you're taking a group back across the ocean to Athens, Greece.
For the first time in a year. Can't wait to go back for sure.
I can't imagine how that must feel, after all this time. Like, you probably had no idea when that would happen.
Yeah, whoever thought this past year would happen to any of us as business owners, as regular people, as consumers of products, of travelers, right? Who knew that this was going to happen? But I'm so excited to give this opportunity. We're going to Athens, Greece, and we're traveling around Greece. We start in Athens, we end in Athens, but actually we travel around a little bit and really offer this opportunity to people that are hungry to travel. I'm also really excited to see our partners in Greece, right? I haven't seen them in a year. We were supposed to see them every year, every summer in June. Last June didn't happen. So thoroughly excited to see our friends at Ocean Man as well.
Super exciting, and I'm really happy for you. Coming through this as a business owner, I know how good it must feel to be like, okay, we're back on the horse, but I know that you've been working this whole time, and I mentioned that you took a group to the Super Bowl, so we'll get into that in a little bit, because I have a lot of questions about that process and how that was as in comparison to previous years. So let's take a pin in that. But welcome, and let's get started. So Livingsport, okay, this is your business, and my first question is, what is Livingsport? What problem does it solve, and how long has it been around?
We started Livingsport in 2017. It started as a passion project. So I spent years working in the sport industry. I worked for the New York Knicks, the New York Rangers. I got into minor league baseball working with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. And then I shifted my focus to cycling, a sport that's not really popular here in the States, but it's popular in Europe, and I really got a feel for international sport. Okay. So when I started traveling around the world, I thought, wow, this is great for students studying sport management. Now, sport management, for those that don't know, is a major in 400 plus universities just here in the States, not even talking worldwide. So if I was learning all about sports worldwide that I didn't know about, I thought it would be great for people studying that major to learn about this too. So it started as a passion project in 2017. That means I was working full time in the sports industry, meaning 40 plus hours a week, probably a lot more. But it started on lunch hours, it started on nights and weekends, and then it just kind of got legs and grew on its own to a point where I had to stop taking my vacation time from my full-time job to make this a reality. We've been going strong ever since. So the need that we fulfill is for these students to really learn about sport. Sport is a global game. We all know that, but we know it only from the US side of it. We dabble into the Olympics. It's very popular, of course, but what about those sports we know nothing about? As I started traveling, I learned about the sport of, hurling is super big in Dublin, and Gaelic football and rugby is a world game as well. And I mentioned the game of the sport of cycling. I didn't know it was as big as it really is. And it changed my world. So I want to give people the opportunity, young professionals, to see sports outside of the big four. I love the big four sports, and let's include soccer or football in there as well. So maybe the big five, we could call it. I love them. But when you're looking for an opportunity to work in sport, you could gain incredible experience working in some other sports as well.
I think it's really amazing, thinking back to being in college and having that, like you said, the thirst for travel. Um, Certainly, I know that I had that and wanted to study abroad, and was trying to figure out the best way to do that to sort of maximize that experience. And I kind of wish that this had been around back then, because to think about going to Greece, getting work experience, at the same time that I could put in my resume. I mean, I think it's just absolutely incredible. So congratulations, on launching it, like your side hustle. And then where you're here, right? Like 2021.
It's 2021, and I was that sport management student. So as you're any entrepreneurs out there, as you're thinking of business ideas, like, you have to first think about yourself. Like, it's not always about the ideas. Like, what did I need when I was there? Because I always wanted to help young professionals getting into the sport industry, a really hard industry to get into. So you have to be unique. You have to be different. Sure, there's some incredible internship opportunities out there, but how about you get those incredible internship opportunities and you have something else really unique to talk about as well? We're not only developing young professionals, we're developing really great people too. People that understand how the world works and understands that people, even though we may live in different countries, speak different languages, look different, everybody just wants to be good and we want to be happy. And if we could all do that together, it's an incredible thing. So we're developing professionals and really good people all at the same time.
I think it's incredible and I love it. So tell us a little bit about, you're already giving us a taste of your mindset and who you are as a leader and, all that fun stuff. And it's so great. And the energy is really infectious that you bring. So keep on bringing that. But when I look at your profile and your business, there's these words that come up for me. So travel, obviously travel, education, experiences. I think on your website, you say edutainment. So like, let's talk about that in a second, but then community, right? And so it's super clear that you're passionate about all this stuff. So talk a little bit more about why you love this work and what parts of your leadership style do you bring every single day to this business?
Yeah, no pun intended here. I really just like to open up the world of opportunities to young professionals. I think college education is absolutely great. There's a place for it, but there's so much out there to learn. So I always think, even young professionals, all the way up to, I've been doing this for a while, every day is a new day to learn. The more you can learn, and that goes with education, the better person you will be. And the more you learn, you might get into ways and things that you explore and find that you knew nothing about, and you really like it. And if you didn't go out there and try things and learn new things, you wouldn't know about that. So that's the education portion. Always be out there learning and growing. We live in this digital age where things are constantly changing. So if you want to get into the world of social media or digital media, you have to be on top of things every day, because there's either a new trend, a new platform, a new way to do things. So you always have to continue learning. If you want to sit there and just kind of do the same thing day in and day out and kind of clock in 9 to 5, this industry really isn't for you, and specifically the digital era, because things are changing constantly. So education is really important. Our trips are also, we have fun, we build community. That's where the entertainment part, that's where we combined the two words edutainment to create that word edutainment. And people do really like that word. But I think it's important in life to also enjoy what you're doing. Anybody that works in sports knows that there's a lot of hours that you put in, a lot of grind that takes place in sports. You're working when other people are having fun. So if you're working in the NBA, you have 40 some home games, you're working. Everybody else is buying a ticket to come and leisurely hang out with their friends, family, buddies, coworkers, whatever it may be. You have to love what you do. And you have to have fun with it too. And I think that's a big perk of working in the industry. So all of these industry parallels we really bring into our programming. I also say I parallel this to working a baseball homestand. So our short-term trips are about 10 days in length, and we fill it up just like a baseball homestand was 10 days in a row, where you're going to work, maybe 8:30 is call time, and you're doing your office work, you're preparing them for gates open, and then you're working all throughout the game. And then maybe there's extra innings that you have to stay for. And then maybe even so, there's a firework night. So it's a constant grind. And then you wake up and do it again. So our program, our 10 days, are giving young professionals a taste of the grind that goes into sports. So when they leave our program, they learn so much. But one of the things is, how did you feel after this 10 days where we were up, going nonstop, working events, networking? We always had to be on and professional. How do you feel after that? Most people will say, oh my God, I loved it. I feel motivated and confident. And I definitely want to work in sport now that I went through and knew I could handle these 10 days.
Right. I love that metaphor. It makes so much sense. And it just brings to the forefront the fact that you have worked in this business and you're bringing everything from that experience to living sport, which is really valuable in and of itself. You know, giving them the taste of the grind. Yeah, sports biz is a grind. And there's definitely a burnout factor, but I think you can see that certain people light up in this environment, certain people love it. And the other thing is, like, you don't even have to be a sports fan to love it, right? Because it's definitely a lifestyle. And you also find, to your point, that hey, they're all over there having the time of their lives, you know, having a pretzel or a hot dog or a beer, and I'm here in my corporate or attire working the game, right? So I think that's a reality that sometimes can be like a harsh reality for people, but
Yeah, I mean, the honest, we've missed many weddings, many baby showers, many birthday parties, but it's the feeling you have when you're there, and the feeling of just pride to be there, and you love what you do, and that's what keeps you going every day, right? So if you have that by going out there as a young professional, or maybe a seasoned vet too, if you continue going out there and pushing yourself and trying new things, and you still have love for this industry, keep at it. Yes,
right.
there are some trade-offs with it, but I've never worked another job that the sport industry makes me feel like this good. Like no other job I had, whether it was, growing up, retail, or whatever you do as a young professional, just trying to make some cash. Like I never had that feeling, but sport has given me that. It's somewhere where I belong and somewhere where I have fun every day and can't wait until Sunday night to go back to work Monday morning.
Absolutely. And side note, tangential, I like how you use the word sport without the S. I think that speaks to the international aspect of your program, right? So
Sure.
it's
A lot of people call us living sports, right? And that's an American thing. But you go over to Europe and international, everything is sport, and it's very inclusive. It means every sport. We're not only talking about the big four when we say sports or specific sports, we're talking about sports, anything, any physical competition type activity that could be classified into the sports realm.
absolutely. All right, let's get into story time. One of my favorite segments of this series, which has evolved and become super just, I don't know, there's an energy about it. I love listening to women tell stories from their experience. But what I wrote down here is Super Bowl 2021. Okay. This is a big moment for living sport, in my opinion. I mean, you might agree. But, you made this happen despite COVID. And you brought 40 people to Tampa to work the Super Bowl. Can you tell us about the process you went through? How did you make this happen during the pandemic? How did it go? What did you learn?
So the big pivot, right? Sports and travel company looking for a pivot during COVID. So what we did is we transformed our international programming to domestic. We always wanted to do it, maybe not this quick, but COVID kind of pushed us along there. So we go to the Super Bowl in January, February of this current year. there was a lot to do, right? I thoroughly believed it was the sport industry, the Super Bowl was happening, right? And those that want to work in sport, right, have to know that, hey, if the industry is opening back up, you are going to be asked to work. So you had to, we were in a phase where those that may not felt comfortable traveling, cool, stay home, like do the remote thing. That we are given a choice, but there was a lot of people out there that did want to start to travel, felt comfortable, and the Super Bowl was happening, right? They needed employees. And in a time of COVID where some employees may opted out and maybe are working from home, there's a lot of opportunity for those that felt safe to go out and take advantage of. So maybe they would have never got this opportunity during a non-COVID year, but we took advantage of it. We went down with 40 students. So internally, my business had to come up with COVID rules and regulations. We had to sign new waivers. Our agreements had to change and include that verbiage, right? We had to get branded masks so we could hand those out. So, and then we went into all sorts of things, like new things that businesses had to do to accommodate. And we had to do all that. And then when we were on site, we tried to keep the distance. We had to remind people to wear the masks, right? It was all about safety and making this opportunity happen. So, and I always knew we could do it safely. And I would say that the most challenging part is changing everything, you know, like I said, your agreements, your rules, making all of that new to basically accommodate COVID, the pandemic that was going on. But when we got there, I will tell you this, the students that traveled with us, those 40 students, they were more grateful than ever. I travel with superstar students. Any student that is willing to take a risk and step outside of their comfort zone and travel with people they don't know, that's somebody you want to take a second look at. But these students were so grateful. They were hungry for this opportunity. Many of them were doing digital classes. And let's be honest, there's nothing like in-person confrontation, like just communicating and and really learning about a person face to face. Digital got us through, but the face to face contact everybody was hungry for. And then to go there and work the Super Bowl, it was crazy. I can't imagine. The Super Bowl was at 25% capacity. I can't even imagine what it would have been if it was 100% capacity, because the energy, the electricity at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, I don't know that there was room for more of it, but they were only at 25% capacity.
Yeah. So all of it, I mean, I'm sort of imagining you in the thick of that transition and changing all the paperwork and getting people on board. And it's a really great story. I noted, what you said is, for a student, a person to say, hey, I'm going to pick up and travel with people I don't know, that's someone you want to take a second look at. That's really powerful, because I feel like you're speaking to the industry when you say that. Take a look at these people. They're willing to take a risk. They're willing to step up outside their comfort zone. They're willing to travel. They're willing to do what it takes. The Super Bowl was an opportunity. It was a calculated risk. So kudos to you for getting that done, getting those students down there, giving them that opportunity, like you said, opening up their world. Oh my gosh, like talk about brain explosion for those students that got to go. I mean, you really opened up their world. And you're saying that they were grateful. Of course. I mean, what were they doing before that? It's like, I've been on my couch for 8 months and guess what, Mom? I'm going to the Super Bowl.
For sure. It was an incredible experience. And something we also did learn, I didn't even mention, was I talked about our Livingsport COVID procedures. But what about the Super Bowl? We had to download apps. We had to check in every day. We had to get our temp check. There were certain procedures when you arrived at Raymond James Stadium that if you're somebody studying sport management, or myself, like a business professional, I was seeing their whole setup. They too had to go through all of this, the Super Bowl host committee, and make it safe for everyone. So seeing what app did they use? What questions are they asking? Is it user friendly? How are they doing the lines to get your temp check? The credentials, all of that. If you love this industry, COVID, if you felt comfortable, was a time that you learned a lot about an industry, new education, new knowledge that everybody was learning right on the spot, right? No one knew how to handle this. So the industry came together and figured it out.
Right. And you're tapping into my PR self right now. Okay. Because the basics of good PR is positioning. Okay. So hopefully everybody that got to go down there has taken away at least 4 bullet points for their resume that nobody else has. Right. I got to be behind the scenes at the Super Bowl. And not just that, but I can tell you about the apps that they used. I can tell you about the protocols. I know all of it. So it gives you a bit of a leg up getting back into the sports industry now as everybody recovers and we start to see like full stadiums again. To have that experience on your resume is really, really important. And it's a separator. So when I put my PR hat on, I'm like, they got to lead with that. They got to lead with that when they go out and they apply for these jobs. So that's awesome. Moving on. So women in sports. So WINS stands for Women Influencing Sports and Entertainment. So my question to you in that theme is, are there any trends? So you work with students, you work with young professionals who are looking to have an experience, they're looking to build their resume. Are there any trends that you see as it relates to working with a male student versus a female student? Do you see them approaching this a different way? Do you see anything at all? Maybe you don't. And the second part is, what advice do you have for those young women who are trying to work their way in or up in this business?
Sure. Yeah, I could answer all of those questions. Great questions. I'm stemming back to my own career, right? I think whether you're male, female in this male dominated industry, I understand it is. I think the best approach to it all is really look at yourself and do everything you can for yourself. Work hard, show up every day on time, ask for more work, be a team player, be somebody people want to be around. Those are things that you can control as a female in this industry, right? The more you worry about other things going on, like the male, like versus female thing, that's just a detriment and like maybe not so positive energy. So my recommendation is think about yourself. How could you become the best professional you could be? Because male or female, if you're totally rocking it, your boss is going to see it. And people want people on their staff that are killing it and are totally confident and ultimately are delivering. So focus on those as a young female in this industry. What I will say about young professionals, and this is the truth, I see a lot of young male students coming out of sport management programs, or they're still in sports. They want to talk stats. They want to talk player stats. Well, there's only a certain portion of the business that deals with that, like the front office and things like that. Really, it doesn't totally matter what's happening on the field. So we're looking for people who are in love with the business side of sport, not necessarily the wins, losses on the field. They're working in minor league baseball. There's sometimes I left the game, I didn't even know the score. I could assume, oh, we won. Everyone was cheerful walking out the gates, but I'm not sure the score because I was so busy handling all the business dealings and talking with sponsors and ticket holders, etc. That I didn't forget to watch the game. You just can't. I forgot to look at the scoreboard. How about that? But I would say young females, they come out and, I think they just have to just totally work on the business side of sports. But I will say this, I see young males knowing a lot about sports, and that's okay if young females don't. You don't necessarily need that in sport, right? You just need a good team player that's passionate about the business side of sport.
Yeah, I've had, supervisors and people before, in interviews that I was in say, I don't care if you're a fan. And sometimes it's better if you're not, because you need to separate yourself from being a fan, especially when you're working in not for one team, right? So when I was working at the NHL, like we weren't allowed to be a fan of a team. We were a fan of the league, we were serving the league. And so I think that there's a big separation that occurs. And of course, the other thing is, you're going to go in as a fan of one team. And if you're successful in the business, likely you're moving around quite a bit. You're going to be fans of a lot of teams. So,
Of course.
yeah. So the emotional side of it, that fandom or that avid fandom, I think it still exists, but I get your point. Guys coming in out of sports management, I've taught in many of those programs. They're statistical geniuses. They have their encyclopedias of the business. And is it going to help? Yes. But is it a game changer? No. Study the business, understand how it makes money, what makes it tick, and that's how you get successful. So I think that's a really interesting point. All right. So wins. Okay. I love talking about small wins. I post it all over Instagram. It's my favorite thing. Small wins are a big thing for me in my career. But big wins are big wins, right? So can you share we can go backwards and forwards. Any big wins you've had recently, other than the Super Bowl? I know that was a big win for you. Getting Greece back on the calendar, that's a big win for you. What have some of your wins been, small, big? And what are you working toward this year with Livingsport?
Sure. I think our big pivot of COVID was a big win for us. We shifted an international program to now travel domestically. In August, we went to Nashville. In January, February, we went to Tampa for the Super Bowl. We then in March went to Atlanta. And now in June, we're heading back to Atlanta to partner with Rugby ATL, a phenomenal rugby team out of Atlanta. Again, outside of that big four sports, there's a lot to learn about that. And rugby ties in hand with international sports because it is a world game. So that was a huge win for us, is the big pivot we did. We are going to Greece, our first international program in a year. We are going to celebrate that, and so happy to see our partners and get that going again. Moving forward, we have a couple ideas as part of Livingsport to become more than a program that just offers these 10-day programs, right? We think we could do more than that. And in the upcoming months, you'll start to see our release on that. Something we did during COVID too that just popped into my mind is so important. At Livingsport, we have a huge community of over 300 young professionals that have traveled the world through sport with us. They're either still in school or now they're working in the industry. What we did during COVID, when everybody had a lot of time on their hands, is we really strengthened our alumni committee, our alumni board. So these are students that traveled with us that come together and are constantly doing great things. So in the upcoming months, we have an alumni group heading to the Indianapolis 500 to work that event. We have a group going to the MLB All-Star Game in Denver, Colorado to work that event. So these are just hungry young professionals coming together to do great things. We also have an alumni board fundraising committee that are helping other people. They're paying it forward by raising money to give scholarships to people that may need it to come on our program. Just like a study abroad program, there is a cost to our program, but a lot of it is hard costs. You're paying for your hotel, you're paying for your food, you're paying for your travels and your tips and everything that costs to travel, right? But you're getting this experience for free. You're building your network for free, right? So really the big parts of our trip are there free. You just have to pay for your hard costs. But leading up into the fundraising portion is during COVID, we have started a 501c3 nonprofit called Livingsport Foundation, where our goal is to raise funds for somebody that may not be able to afford to go on a Livingsport program, the opportunity to do so.
I think that's amazing. It's really smart. You were really, really in that administrative paperwork this whole time. So I'm excited to see that roll out. That's really exciting for people who, like you said, they want to travel. You're giving them the opportunity to do so, even if they can't afford to do so. So that's really meaningful. And again, I'm excited to see that roll out and would happy to share the good word in any way that I can for you on that. So closing, thank you, Alicia, for taking the time today, for everything that you're doing to support students and young people in the sports business. And, as a woman in leadership, we, thank you for just doing what you're doing so that other women can see you doing what you're doing and know that, hey, that's possible for me. You guys are really crushing it. And, I'm super excited to see what's to come.
Well, thank you so much, Amie. It's been a sincere pleasure meeting all of these young professionals who are hungry to get into an industry we love. Um, if you love something, anything in life, whether it be the sport industry or not, just go get it. Find paths to make it possible for you. There's always a path. Don't count yourself out. It may take a lot of hard work. It may take patience and time, but keep on the grind and find your way. And yeah, that is my last piece of advice that I could say to everybody listening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me. And thank you to everyone who is here watching. In our next episode, we are going to talk to Stephanie Rapp, who is the CRO of Bleacher Report. I'm very excited for that. And finally, this interview was powered by WINS, our membership community for women influencing sports and entertainment. To learn more about us, visit us at wins.media/membership.